You know, it's pretty hard to figure out why things happen, particularly if you have to prove it. And we are all very happy thinking that we are very important and things happen because we want them like that. But it's not the case, is it? I mean, it's just look around. It's a mess. So, a couple of years ago, actually about 8 years ago, I started to think about why was it that there were irregularities in the onset of psychotic events? Or why was it that when there was one psychotic event, quite a few other people have them at the same time? This was confessed to me by psychiatrists. So I looked into the matter, but I couldn't actually make much of it because, medical doctors, particularly psychiatrists perhaps, are very jealous about their profession and they didn't want to disclose the information. And without being able to match the onset to something else that might trigger them, I couldn't move forward. It was when I arrived in Portugal, still surrounded by these clever colleagues that were supporting my research, I had some sort of eureka movement and I said, well, if we need the data, let's look for it. And there is no more clearer data than corpses, homicides. You just have to count them. And the police actually tells you when the people died, but they release that information on a yearly basis. But that was something. And we could actually prove that the solar activity had influenced the rate of murders across the ocean from the US to England and Germany. And then we moved forward because you see, the solar activity and the disturbances it creates in the Earth's geomagnetic sphere doesn't last much. So yearly data was not enough. We actually had to get finer details, but we couldn't find it. But if we could at least study when the murders took place in two countries that were very diverse in terms of the murder rates, but if those murder rates happened at the same time, if they evolved at the same time, so we went to the US and Canada, and wow, there we found that for about 6 decades, though the Canadians are less murderous than the Americans, the rates of murder in both countries evolved in tandem. When one went up, the other one did as well. So there must be a common driver. And we found that the common driver could be the solar-driven geomagnetic disturbances. This led to a deeper thought, and we started looking into riots, into revolutions, into CEO turnovers, expressions of human aggressiveness. And so we gathered these colleagues and these informations about markets, about murder, about human behavior at large, and we started associating that with the data that we could more easily find about solar-driven geomagnetic disturbances. And we came up with this beautiful book. I think it's beautiful. It's being released in a few days, in which we actually argue that we are not as important as we thought we were. And perhaps our behavior, at least the large spectrum of it, is conditioned or at least shaped by solar activity. And just going further, is it only about the sun? Or is the sun itself a ransom to some other influence? This is the next chapter that we haven't really written about, but it's the last one in this book that we are releasing in only a few days, February 10. It doesn't cost much, so it won't hurt you if you buy it, and particularly if you read it. After that, let me know what you think of it. Thank you very, very much, and thanks to all the colleagues that actually collaborated with me in bringing this book together. Bye-bye now.